Hello, and welcome to the Formula series of Microsoft Excel. An Excel spreadsheet is great for managing and displaying data, but Excel is so much more than just a spreadsheet. This series will introduce you to the powerful calculation ability of Excel, which will enable you to enter, manipulate, and calculate numbers. To take advantage of this function, you will need to learn about formulas, which are essentially math equations. Today we will discuss the basic rules of formulas, and we will review the auto features, which include Autosum, average, minimum, max, and count. This will help to get you familiar with the Excel formulas before moving into writing formulas, which will be covered in videos to follow. Okay, so here we are on our spreadsheet, and I have inserted some data for us to work with. Before we begin, I would like to locate our tools. Let's go to the Home tab. Let's go to the Editing group, and let's get the drop down for the Autosum. These are the automatic tools that we will be working with today to introduce Excel formulas. You have the sum, you have the average, you have the count numbers, and then we have the max and minimum features. Now, before we do a demonstration of the features, let's go over some rules as it relates to the formulas. Number 1, formulas are entered into a cell the same way as numbers and text. Number 2, a formula is displayed in the formula bar where it can be easily modified. Number 3, every formula must begin with the equal sign. This will notify Excel that you are ready to do a calculation. Number 4, a formula is created on the basics of mathematical rules. Number 5, press the Enter key or the check mark next to the formula bar to complete the entry. The formula bar will continue to display the formula while the cell will display the results of the formula. And with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into our first lesson. Okay, so now let's go ahead and place our mouse inside of cell B28. We will use the sum feature to calculate the total of list 1. So let's go ahead to the Home tab. Let's go to the Editing group. Let's get the drop down for Autosum, and then let's just go ahead and select Sum. Okay, now what I want you to pay attention to is the formula bar. As you can see, as described in the rules, it begins with the equal sign. And so what this automatic feature does is give you the sum of the selected cells. So let's go ahead and select Enter. As you can see, it totals $1,295. Okay, so next let's work with the average feature. Let's do this by placing our mouse inside of cell C28. We will repeat the same steps, but this time we're going to select average. Let's go up to cell C3 and let's go ahead and drag it down to cell C26. Okay, so the average of the cells selected is $53.96. This time we did have to select our cell to execute our calculation. Now, in an attempt to automate the process as much as possible, Excel will usually grab the closest list. Sometimes we have to make the correction, and sometimes Excel does get it right. Another thing I want to point out, as you look at the cell in cell C28, you will see the results, but as the rules indicated, the formula bar will maintain the actual formula while the cell results will be displayed in the selected cell. So next, let's go ahead and move into the minimum, the maximum, and the count. Let's begin by placing our mouse inside of cell D28. Let's go up to the Autosum and get the minimum feature. Now let's go ahead and select cell D3 and let's drag it all the way down to D26. This time we're going to hit the check mark to complete the entry. And as you can see, the minimum for this list is $1. Now let's go ahead and repeat those steps, but this time we'll use the maximum. Let's place our mouse inside of cell E28. Let's go up to the Autosum, get the drop down, and let's go ahead and say max. Let's go ahead and select E3, and let's go ahead and drag it all the way down to E26. Let's hit the check mark again next to the formula bar to complete the entry. So the max in this case would be $150. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do our final demonstration, which is the count. Let's place our mouse inside of cell F28. Let's go up to the Autosum, get the drop down, and let's go ahead and say count numbers. Let's go ahead and select cell F3 and drag it all the way down to cell F26. I'm going to click enter this time to complete my entry. So this is telling us that we have 24 cells that are accounted for. Okay, so I don't know if you've noticed, but the lists are duplicates of one another. And the reason I did this is because I want to compare the information that we calculated against the status bar. So let's go ahead and select cell B3 and drag it all the way down to cell B26. Now let's go ahead and look at our status bar. As you can see, the sum reflects $1,295. The average reflects $53.96. We have a count of 24. Let's go ahead and add the minimum and max in, and let's see if we get the same figures. Let's do a right click on the status bar. Let's select minimum and let's go ahead and say max. And as you can see, the information matches. We have $1 minimum and $150 max. Okay. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this lesson. So next we'll be moving into writing formulas. So again, I want to remind you that each formula begins with the equal sign. I also would like to reiterate that the formula bar will display the formula, but the results will be reflected in the selected cell. And with that being said, thanks for joining us, and I'll see you in the next video. Congrats on completing this video and on your commitment to learning Excel. Be sure to save your work and then pat yourself on the back. You are doing an awesome job.